Why is economics so important? That's my last chapter in the book. So I have 3 quotes that I say all economics professors should rely on when they teach economics. The first one is a quote from F.A. Hayek, which says, "The curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design." That's my mystery of the mundane kind of point. The second quote is a quote from Adam Smith, which is around the passage of the invisible hand. But what he basically says is that the statesman or lawgiver does not have the knowledge to tell you how to deploy your capitals. But then he adds another line, which I think we should never forget, which is that it's nowhere as dangerous as in the hands of a statesman or lawgiver who fancies himself fit to tell you what to do with your capitals. You have to remember that Adam Smith is a gentleman. But when you read about the man of systems, or you read about the arrogance of the lawgiver, he actually is being very, very nasty to those types of people. Right? These are the people who presume that they can tell you how to live your life. And he's not going to pull any punches on that. And Smith has that right in there, and we should make sure our students understand that message. And then the final one is from Mises, who says that you can deny the teachings of economics, but that will not impact the effect of your denial will have in the world. It has the same consequences of a bunch of people convinced that you could deny the teachings of physics and then telling everyone to jump off of a cliff. Just flap hard, you'll fly. All right? And we should never forget that as economists, that what we're dealing with is scientific knowledge that's of the same ontological status as the science is in the natural sciences, but from different epistemological procedures. Okay? I would argue. But we still have that same thing here. So, what I do in this book is I try to make an argument that economics should be the sexiest subject you'll ever be exposed to. Students should be just like eating it out of your lap, because it's awesome. And example that I give here is Pete Leeson's work on the invisible hook, The Secret Economics of Pirates. That's an example that I use in the book a lot of times, but there's other ones. A lot of the sort of Tim Hartford's work on the economics of life, and Becker, any of those kind of things where people are implying and looking at economic life in all its manifestations. I just came across a really cool manuscript for the students in here. It's research questions that Ludwig von Mises came up with. You can get it online. It goes about 26 pages of all different topics that Mises has. And one of the first ones becomes Israel Kirzner's dissertation. It's from 1950. And he says, the development of the move from economics as a science of wealth to economics as a science of human action. That became the economic point of view, which is Kirzner's dissertation. But then what he goes further and he says, and the understanding that economics applies to man in every single instance of his living. This is awesome. Mises is the first Beckerite, well before Becker was thinking about economics. And so economics applies to everything and to everywhere. It's totally cool. And it's the science of human action. All right? So you should do that. The second one is this science turns out to be really, really important. It determines the life and death of people, the quality of life that people are able to live under. All right, an example that I give of that book is my colleague Chris Coyne's book, After War, which is the efforts to use military to introduce markets and democracy throughout the world in the 20th and now into the 21st century. Hasn't gone so well, by the way, just let you know that. And the consequences of it are extremely severe in terms of lives lost, countries destroyed, and our own situation in the United States in terms of our fiscal insanity. Which, by the way, that's another thing, just to give you an example. Adam Smith, brilliant economist. He refers to the problem of fiscal policy as juggling tricks. This is Adam Smith in 1776, nails this. He says, all governments, ancient as well as modern, what they love to do is they love to run deficits, then accumulate public debts, and then pay the public debts down by monetizing. Have you heard that story? Okay? So he says, this is the juggling tricks that all governments. Now, think about that. Smith even gives us it. What do we have to do? We got to do something to tie the hands of the juggler. Right? So a large part of the great classical liberals, Milton Friedman, one of them, F.A. Hayek, another one, Jim Buchanan, another one, a lot of what they've done in the second half of the 20th century was their constant effort and frustration at trying to tie the hands of the juggler. We're going to have a monetary rule. We're going to have a constitutional amendment to balance a budget. What does Hayek end up by doing in the end? He says, I can't tie your hands, so I'm going to take the balls away from you. That's called denationalizing money. I can't trust you to design the rules. That's called charter cities. Right? So you think about this stuff. Adam Smith had that research program all the way back in 1776 and was recognizing for all of us to grapple with, and we're still grappling with it. But the answer's there. It's in the roots. Right? But we continue to have to examine that. So I'll end with one last quote from Hayek. We started a new program at George Mason called the F.A. Hayek Program for Advanced Study in Philosophy, Politics, and Economics. Over the last decade, we've amassed a faculty. Since when Diego was our star student there, we've amassed now a faculty that work with me that includes Larry White and Pete Leeson and Chris Coyne and Mark Koyama and Dick Wagner and myself. And we have kind of, a bunch of Virgil Storr, Dragos Alagica. We have about 8 people all working full-time on questions that you could call Austrian-oriented questions. And so we decided to finally coalesce under a formal rubric of a center, and it's called the F.A. Hayek Center. And we take as our motto, Hayek's motto that says, nobody can be a good economist who is only an economist. Okay? So again, like I spoke earlier today at the Michael Polanyi College, in the Carl Menger room, that's perfect. There's a David Hume Center here. There's all these different things. This place reflects that idea. My only warning to all of you is that I'm somewhat like, I'm an economist. So I suffer from the usual economist disease. So what I like to say to students all the time is, nobody can be as dangerous as an economist who only knows economics, except perhaps a moral philosopher who knows no economics at all. So anyway, thank you very much.